All right, so I'm out here in Port Maria. As you can see, that's a historic church. It's a civic center. This shit been around since I don't know, I got to double check, but I think like the 1800s, early 1800s or something. They filmed the famous movie named Countryman over there. And Port Maria, if you know, is home to the first slave rebellion ever in Jamaica by Chief Taki himself. The Eastern Rebellion is my first time seeing this painting. Look at the big boss himself. Jesus Christ. This is amazing. In 1760. You know what I mean? This helped start that whole domino effect that freed the slaves around the world. Don't take this lightly, people. It's my hometown too. If you look close, you can see an island back there.
Hello guys, welcome to the Real World List. My name is Betty. Now, they tried to erase his name from history, but Jamaicans don't forget their heroes that easy. This is the story of Taki, the enslaved African who outsmarted the mighty British Empire and led one of the boldest rebellions the Caribbean had ever seen. If you love real Jamaican stories of courage, pride and power, make sure you subscribe right now. And join me as we bring our true history back to life.
Did you know that one of the largest and most intense uprisings against the British rule in the Caribbean was led by an enslaved man right here in Jamaica? His name was Chief Taki, and here's why his story is still so important. Chief Taki became enslaved while living in his homeland in Ghana. His story continued as he was taken from Ghana and forcefully brought to Jamaica, where he worked on sugar plantations. But eventually he became something much more dangerous to the British, a leader. In 1760, after years of suffering, Taki and his crew of warriors devised a plan, men like Fulajati and Kwanti, a plan so bold that would forever change the course of our Jamaican history. It all started Easter Sunday, where Taki and his crew attacked Fort Haldane in Port Maria. They seized weapons, gunpowder, and anything possible in order to take on war. But it wasn't just about fighting back. It was about gaining their freedom. Taki and his crew set fire to sugar mills, attacked plantations, and killed British planters. In just a few days, the rebellion spread like wildfire. Hundreds of enslaved Africans joined Taki's cause, united by the hope of freedom. Of course, the British responded quickly. They called in for help and called upon the Leeward Maroons, who had peace treaties with the British. Taki put up a fight, but with superior weaponry and reinforcements, the British soon overthrew him and his crew. After several battles, Taki was captured and killed. Though Taki's rebellion was overthrown, his legacy lived on. The British were shaken by the scale and violence of the revolt. The increased military presence tightened control over the enslaved, but they couldn't extinguish the fire Taki had sparked. Chief Taki's war may have ended in defeat, but it inspired years of resistance, which eventually led to Jamaican freedom. His story will never be forgotten.
Long before Jamaica gained independence, there was a man named Taki, not just an ordinary enslaved man, but a born leader from the Akan people of the West Africa. Back home, he was believed to be a military officer or even a chief, trained in war and leadership. But when he was captured and brought to Jamaica, the British had no idea who they were dealing with. They thought they could break him. But instead, he started planning quietly and patiently. By Easter of 1760, Taki had gathered hundreds of brave men and women from plantations across St. Mary. They were tired of the whip, tired of the chains, tired of being treated less than human. At night, they rose up, armed with stolen guns and machetes, and the fire of freedom in their hearts.
Taki, the slave who butchered 60 masters with machetes in Jamaica's Easter dawn. Jamaica, Easter Sunday, 1760. While white planters gathered in prayer and celebration, a different kind of ritual was unfolding in the shadows. Hundreds of enslaved men and women, their hands hardened by cane fields, gripped machetes, not as tools, but as weapons. At their head was Taki, once a proud Akan leader, now a slave turned general. When dawn broke, laughter turned to screams, hymns to silence. 60 masters fell before the sun had fully risen. This was not Easter morning. It was the birth of rebellion. In the 18th century, Jamaica was the glittering jewel of the British Empire. This is Black AF History, the unwhitewashed story of America. I recommend everybody in this country read this book. I will leave it in the caption of the video. It was the brilliance of Jamaica was paid for in blood. Sugar was not merely a commodity, it was currency, and it was the empire. It was obsession. Every crystal that sweetened English tea was born from endless hours of labor beneath their Caribbean sun. The island had become the engine of Britain's sugar revolution, its fields stretching endlessly like seas of cane swaying under a merciless sky. And to keep this empire running, hundreds of thousands of enslaved Africans were torn from their homelands and forced into bondage. Ships carried them across the Atlantic, branding them as cargo, stacking them like goods. By the time they staggered onto Jamaican soil, many were broken in body but not in spirit. Among them were the Akan people, warriors and farmers from the Gold Coast, whose culture and discipline had been long forged by battle. Life on the plantations was a sentence without reprieve. 16 hours a day, bent over cane, blades cutting into hands, sweat-stinging wounds, overseers' whips cracking like thunder. Nights brought no comfort.
If you're still watching, subscribe now because these are the stories schools never teach and we're keeping them alive right here. Taki and his followers took control of plantations, freeing others as they went. For a moment, Jamaica tasted freedom and the British Empire was losing control. Can you imagine that? The same empire that ruled half the world being outsmarted and by enslaved Jamaicans who refused to give up. The rebellion spread fast until the British sent soldiers and maroon truckers to stop it. Taki was eventually shot, but even in death, his name lived on. The British called it a rebellion, but for Jamaicans, it was a fast spark of freedom that still burns today.
Did you know that there are actual trial transcripts from Jamaica's infamous Tacky rebellion? And trust me, the accounts given are as riveting as anything Hollywood could have concocted. Taki was a newly arrived Coromantee chief from the Gold Coast of West Africa. He, along with roughly 100 other newly arrived Coromantees, launched an overnight offensive that left scores of Bakra, let's just say, no longer with us. There was one Bakra spared, Abraham Fletcher, who also happened to be the overseer of the plantation where the revolt started. During trial, it came out that due to Fletcher's known humanity to the enslaved people on the plantation, the captives who had been on the plantation before the leaders of the rebellion arrived made Taki and his men promise to spare him. The whites themselves acknowledged the rebels were men of honor who kept their word.
Drop a comment if you're proud to be Jamaican and don't forget to subscribe because more real stories like this are coming every week. So next time you hear someone talk about Jamaican bravery, remember Taki. He didn't have power, money, or fame, but he had courage, and that courage became part of Jamaica forever. If you believe stories like this deserve the spotlight, subscribe now, hit the bell, and help me spread Jamaica's real history to the world. Bless up, one love, and I'll see you in the next one.